First, you're going to be needing 2 colors for your top. I chose light blue and dark blue. So we're going to start with a slip knot and chain 82. I began chaining really quickly so that I'd look cool on the video, but then I realized it might make crochet seem intimidating, so I did it a bit slower. Chains are what crocheters seem to be really quick at as compared to doing stitches. At least I believe so. Okay, so once you've chained 82, you are going to make 81 half double crochet. So that means we are skipping the first chain and going into the next one, making half double crochet and continuing with half double crochet all along the row. I believe half double crochet is the best stitch when it comes to making parts of tops like this because it is more padded, less see-through basically. Okay, so once you get to that last stitch, we are actually going to carry over our second color onto the hook before we go through all 3. That way we can join our second color without having to do an additional chain or stitch after the half double crochet with the first color. So now we're going to chain that second color on and it's secure. Now turn your work and we will be working the next row with the second color, making half double crochets all the way. And make sure to tuck in the tail of your second color, that way you don't have to weave in your ends later. Now that we finished the second row, instead of cutting off the first color, we are going to go back to the beginning of the row and simply attach the first color to the second row by making a chain 1. Some may call this way lazy, but I say it's smart because we don't have as many ends to weave. And with that, we are going to be making a half double crochet in that same spot because that will be our first half double crochet, and we will half double crochet the rest of the 80 stitches. Here's something a bit cool. So I was testing out the different speeds with how I crochet in relation to the video speed, and this is 1.5 times the speed. This is 2.5 times the speed. This is 4 times the speed. This is 5 times the speed, and this is 7.5 times the speed. Oh, and finally, 12 times the speed. Rap God starts playing. Okay, anyways, once you get to the end, in your last half double crochet, you see how we have our loop from the previous row? We are going to put that onto the hook as well when we yarn over and pull through, so that we can secure that color when we do our next row, because the next row is going to be the same second color. You are free to switch to your second color here if you just like to go back and forth with the colors, but I'm going to do a pattern of 1, 1, 2, so the next row is going to be the same first color. Once you finish this row, you're going to go back to the beginning of the row like we did with the second color, and we are going to attach our next color with a chain. Remember, we are working smarter, not harder. Now you're going to continue this row with half double crochet. Don't forget to do a half double crochet in that first spot where we chained, because that counts as our first half double crochet. If you miss that one, your project will begin to turn inwards like a triangle. And done! Like we did before, we are going to put the loop onto our hook, but this time we are going to pull through and chain 1. That's how we can swap colors cleanly. And now we are going to repeat the process of doing 2 in our first color and 1 in our second color 4 more times. It should look like this after 1 more time, and like this after your 4th more time. We are then going to color change once more, but only do 1 row of our beginning color. We want it to look just like the bottom, but technically the top, because we are working downwards with our top. Also, do not cut off your second color yet, because we will be using it to do a border. Alright, when you are done, it should look like this. So, as you can see, our sides are quite icky. We can kind of tell about the color change, and you don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it to make it look cleaner. A border along all the sides. Sometimes it can take a while, but it's definitely worth the time. And when you get to the corners, do 2 single crochets in those so that it doesn't round and curve your project. Also, when you get to where your first color had ended, leave it there, just crochet past it. Pro tip, when you are making the single crochets, make them a bit looser than you typically would. This is because single crochets are tighter and smaller than half double crochets, so it may cinch your project a bit, but if you want to cinch your project just a wee bit, maybe a bit tighter, then making tight single crochets would be a good option. Once you are done, it should look like this. So now you can snip off and tuck in your tail. Good job today. See you in part 2. So now we will be making the Solomon knot bottom. This is the flowy, bouncy little area of the top. Back to our starting color, we are going to be taking the loop and making a single crochet in that corner single crochet of our border row. If you didn't do a border, that first half double crochet. Now we are going to begin by doing the Solomon knots. So first we're going to pull up, so we're essentially making a big loose chain, wrap around, pull our yarn through, but you see how I'm holding my fingers in between it? That's because I'm going to go back in with my hook and essentially do a single crochet. So I'm going under, pulling through, wrapping around, and pulling through both loops. And that's it. It's just a big loosey-goosey chain with a single crochet on it. So we're going to pull up, make our big loosey-goosey chain, wrap around and pull through, and then in that gap, we're going to go in and make a single crochet. Yay, you did it! Okay, so now that we have 2 of these Solomon knots, we are going to go in and skip 1 single crochet. Just 1 single crochet for this one, and in that second single crochet, we are going to be doing a slip stitch. You can tug your Solomon knot to make sure it's all nice and neat, and then we're going to be doing that once more. So we're going to pull up a big loose chain, and then go in and make a single crochet within that. One more time, chain, single crochet. But now, instead of skipping 1, we're going to skip 2 single crochet. So in that third one, we are going to go in and make a slip stitch. So we're going to repeat this process of making 2 Solomon knots and then skipping 2 single crochet to do a slip stitch in the third. The reason why we only skipped 1 in the first one was so that it can go outwards as we begin to crochet a bit more. Since the Solomon knots are bigger, it will naturally flow out. So I will show you again. Big loose chain, single crochet in that chain, big loose chain again, single crochet in that chain. Then now we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then that third one, do a slip stitch. Quite simple, right? Solomon's knot stitch is one of those stitches that looks a lot more advanced than it is. So we are going to be repeating this up until the end, but we are going to be doing that skip one in the last one, but I will show you when we get there. Okay, so once you have finished the row, it should look something like this, and you can stretch it out a bit with your fingers to make sure all of them are even. So now I just have my few single crochets left, so I'm going to make my Solomon's knot and then skip that 1 single crochet and slip stitch into the last one. Then I'll show you how to continue to the next row. To begin your next row, you're going to be making 3 Solomon's knots. 3. This is because the 2 that we typically do will act as the sidewall, and that third one is going to curve down to make the Solomon's knot poofy X shape is what I like to call it. So I'm making my first one. Now I'm making my second one. And now I'm making my third one. And I'm going to turn my work. Also, as you begin to make your Solomon's knots, it will go by faster. Don't worry, okay? Now to do the second row, you see all these hills. We are going to go in them. So we are going to go to the top of that first hill, and we are going to be making a single crochet. You see how we have this little space? Perfect. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we are going to do our next part. We are going to continue like before, but we make two Solomon's knots, right? Like we have been doing for every single one of the first row, right? And then we are going to be doing a single crochet in that top of the hill. Yes, the hill. Simple single crochet and top of hill. Yes. And once you're done with that, do you see how I mean it's like a poofy X? So the 2 Solomon's knots are like the wall, and then that last third one is the one going into the X. So now we're going to be finishing all these little Solomon's knot poofy X's by repeating the process of making 2 Solomon's knots, then making a single crochet into the top of the hump. I mean hill. Here I'm just going to show you a few more times so that you know what to do. And once you get to your last one and make that single crochet in that last little hump, you can stretch it out with your fingers and you see all those little poofy X's coming together. Yay! We are going to continue the process of the second row for the rest of our rows. We will be making 10 in total, so 8 more. For row number 3, we are going to be making our 3 Solomon's knots. Remember, our sidewall and then our beginning to curve into our poofy X. So we're making the 3. Then turning our work and single crocheting into the top of the hill. Also, these hills get quite tedious as you begin to go along. Now I'm going to make my 2 Solomon's knots and single crochet into the next hill and repeat for the rest of the round. This is what my work looks like at the end of round 3, and I'm going to continue it for the 7 more rows. You've got this! I believe in you! Yay! And cool! We have finished them, so it should look like this, and now we're going to do the fun process of stretching it all out so all our Solomon knots are even, our poofy X's, and yay! So now you can cut off your end by pulling your yarn. Oh, make sure to do a chain, by the way. So you can pull your yarn and then snip it off. And how I like to tuck it in is just go through a few of the little stitches, I suppose, and pull through, because since it's all quite poofy, the end just blends in quite seamlessly. Ta-da! Yay, so you've officially finished part 2. Congrats! Welcome to part 3. So we will be making the chain for the front and back of the top. So I'm using both colors. You're welcome to as well. I like doubling the yarn so the chain is a bit thicker, more secure, you know? If you just use one color, use both ends of the yarn. So we are going to start with a slip knot, and then we are going to chain 200. If you enjoy having a longer or bigger bow, you know, when you tie it, then maybe do 250 or 300. Once you are done, you can snip it off and then make another one, another one with the same exact chain amount, unless you would prefer the back to be longer, bigger bowed than the part around your neck. So now with your chain, we are going to be cinching the front to get that nice little poof for the bust area. I'm folding my work in half to find the middle stitch, but if you prefer to count, just count 41 inwards. Because our corners have 2 single crochet, you'd count 41 in on both sides to get that 1 single crochet in the center. But I just folded in half and found it because I was lazy. So now I'm just aligning my hook downwards, and then from the bottom I'm going to go in every 2 rows and go up. As you can kind of see, I accidentally went diagonally after I had to redo it, but it's okay. So after going through every 2, I took my chain and I squirmed it through. I'd advise you to just pull it through each 2 rather than pulling it through all of the skipped 2s at once, you know? And then after, you're going to take your chain and go through another single crochet and bring it all the way up through the same gaps that you went through. Once you've pulled it up, it should look something like this, and adjust it so both ends of your chain are the same length. Now you can cinch it down and make it that little poof. Yay! Okay, and now with your second chain, we are going to be making the corset style backing. Insert both ends of your chain to each of the top corner sides. Then we'll be skipping 6 of the single crochets on each side and going into the 7th one. You should be able to do it 5 times on each side. Once you are done, it should look something like this. Make sure both sides are even as well with the ends. When you tie your bow, it'll be super cute, just like this. Now for the flower on the front. So for the flower, I only used white yarn. We are going to start with a slip knot, then chain 8. After, we are going to chain an additional 2 to then skip those 2 and make a double crochet increase in the 3rd chain from our hook. Once you are done, you're going to continue making 6 more double crochet along the chain. Now we are going to be making 5 double crochet in that last chain spot. 5. You should slowly turn your work because now we will be working on the back side of the chain. So from here, you are just going to be making 7 double crochet. Make sure to also tuck in your tail as you're crocheting so then you don't have to weave it in later. Once you've completed your last one, you're going to make a slip stitch in your starting double crochet and chain 1. Now we are going to begin round 2 by making 3 single crochet, 4 half double crochet, half double crochet increase, so that's 2 half double crochet in 1 stitch, another half double crochet, and another half double crochet increase. Now we'll be making a picket stitch. So first we're going to be making a single crochet, then we will be chaining 3. Now you will go into the 2 loops of your single crochet in the side, just like that, and make a slip stitch. Now we're going to make 1 more single crochet in that same stitch, and you see the picket stitch provides a little lump, I suppose, for the end of the petal. Now we'll be doing another half double crochet increase, half double crochet increase, 4 half double crochet, and 4 single crochet. So the same as the other side but in reverse, minus the extra single crochet. Once you are done, slip stitch, chain 1, and fasten off. You may fasten off all these ends short, except one of them. Make sure one of their ends are long. For when we sew. Okay, see you in the next part. Hello, welcome to part 4. This is where we will be assembling our flower and putting our flower on our top so that we can complete it. So first, we're going to take all our petals and layer them on top of each other. Just like this, as if they're going in a spiral. Got it? Okay, that's gonna be what our flower will look like once it's put together. So first, I'm going to take my petal with a very long end and I'm going to pull it through the bottom single crochet of my next petal. Then I'm going to repeat that process, going through all of them. Once you are finished, it should look something like this, and we will be pulling through our first petal as well. Now I'm going to go in a few stitches above on my next petal so that it can start to layer itself, like so. And I'm going to go back through the petal a few stitches above to then go and pull through back up for the next petal. I'm hoping this makes sense. We're essentially sewing the petals to each be layered on top of each other to get that pretty spiral effect. Once we pull the yarn later, you'll see how they start to cinch together. Once you're done, it should look something similar to this. Now, with all these baby ends at the ends of these petals, we're going to pull them through to the other side. I just used my fingers for this, it was a lot easier. And then with those baby ends, I just tied them in a knot together, super tiny, just so make sure it's secure. Now flip your flower and arrange it how you'd like it to be. See here, I'm just patting where I'd like all the petals to stay. Also, if you'd like to add color to your flower, brush it on in these gaps and always start lightly. I ended up using blush to add color to my flower. And now with this end, we're going to sew it onto the top. Before sewing, make sure that your top is cinched just almost all the way that it can be so that we can figure out where we want our flower to be placed. So flipping your flower over with that tail, we're going to pull it through the middle chain of a petal, just like this. Also, the way I sewed on the flower isn't very tight. I did it fairly loose so that I'd be able to change the flower if I wanted to. So if you'd like the flower to stay on, make sure to sew it a bit more secure than I did. And what I mean by more secure is by pulling it through more areas on the petals and the top. But I'll show you what I did now. As you can see, I pulled it through the center area, and now I'm pulling it through my center chain of the petal next to it. I'm slowly repeating the process. I'm going in and out the top and in and out the petals. Honestly, it doesn't matter too much where you put your yarn through exactly, you know, for placement wise, as long as they're all in the general area and the petals are roughly evenly dispersed, you know. Here I just pulled my yarn through the row of single crochet, and I'm pulling it back up through the left bottom petal. And I'm gonna show you just on the video how I sew it on, I suppose, but it's really up to you how you'd like to. Like I said, I did mine fairly loosely, I'd say, just so that I'm able to take off the flower if I really didn't want to keep it on or switch it out for another flower. So yeah, just sew yours a bit tighter. Even so, the way I sewed it, it's secure to the point where I think if I washed it, it wouldn't come off. So there's really no problem with how loose this is sewn as well, you know? Okay. For this last bit, I brought my yarn through the rows and I tied a knot with it, so it is secure. Tie a tighter knot though if you want to keep it on. And make sure you don't accidentally tie your knot into the chain. After that, tuck in your end, rearrange your petals, and to keep the cinch down, I just tied one knot. And with that knot, you are just about done. So now you can try on your top. Tell me if it fits, and please tag me in your finished work. Have an amazing day.